Welcome. I am Diane McKeever, and I will be conducting today's webinar. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that I find interesting, which is Google Docs, and specifically within Google Docs, doing mail merge. A mail merge is when you take a data document, like an Excel-like document with columns of information, and then you create a document, which is a word process document, and you put the two together and the result is a merge. Typically, these are used for labels, and that's what we're going to be doing, but you can use it for anything. If you have an upcoming event and you're in charge of creating the place cards, well, you've got all the names, you've got the table numbers, and what you can do is just merge them into individual cards. Of course, you'd have to buy the stock probably from Avery, go down to your local Staples and buy some Avery labels, and you would be able to accomplish that. Maybe you're doing name tags and you want them professionally printed, not just handing somebody a Sharpie that they can write their name. You can, again, have a list that would be in Sheets. That's what they call the Excel type document in Google Docs. You would put all of your information in the Sheets document. You would set up a template in the Docs document and merge them together, and the result would be some name tags. So there's actually quite a few ways to use it. In fact, one way, if you have a Google account and you use Gmail, one way is that you can even personalize emails so that it can say, "Dear Harry, you've signed up for," and put in the name of an event that somebody has signed up for. You can say, "And I see that you are getting the turkey for dinner." You know, all of that could be entered into a mail merge. But before we get started, I want to talk to you a little bit about Google in general and other apps that are available. When you log into google.com, which is what you're seeing on my screen, you'll know that you have logged on to your account by looking in the upper right corner of the screen. Right now, if I hover above it, it tells me that I am logged onto my Google account, and my Google email is my name, Diane McKeever, @gmail.com. So I now know that I am logged onto my Google account. You'll notice that right to the left of my image, and yours may just be an avatar, it may not have your picture, I have uploaded mine, but to the left of it are, some people call this a waffle. It is the 9 dots that indicate the Google Apps. And as you see, when I hover above it, it tells me Google Apps. When I click on it, and if you're following along with me, maybe you have logged on to your Google account, you're going to see that, whoa, my images, the layout of my screen looks different from the layout of your screen. And that's because this is something that can be customized. There are different apps. There are so many apps that Google actually provides us with, in addition to Gmail and Maps and Photos. Probably you're familiar with those. But a drive is, in essence, a virtual hard drive. It's something that is online, but it's a storage place for you to save documents, a calendar, your contacts. Maybe you don't use some of these, and maybe you use some of these more frequently. Excuse me. Excuse me. If you want to reorder these, perhaps you don't use Google Play all that much, you can put your mouse on that icon and drag it up or down, and you're rearranging these. So if you wanted to use Docs more frequently, well, bring that up higher and bring up your Sheets. Maybe you do PowerPoint type documents. Well, that would be what Slides is all about. Forms is a really dandy little app that would allows you, I use this actually a lot. It allows for people to register or give feedback. It's a Q&A kind of thing. It's a wonderful little app that's available. Blogger is another app. If you would like to blog, I don't seem to be rearranging the waffle on my iPad. That's a possibility. You may not be able to on an iPad. I haven't checked that out, but if you rearrange them on your computer, I think there's a good possibility that they would then change on your computer. But Blogger is a free blogging site. I have a blog there, 100 Amazing Computer Tips in 100 Days, that I started years ago. And it's a really nice app. So the thing is that Google provides all of these apps for free. And they're in competition, of course. They're in competition with Microsoft. You know, if you buy into a Microsoft program, you would get Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Publisher, and maybe something else. But here on Google, just by having a free Google account, you have access to these free documents. People are turning more and more to Google because a couple of reasons. One is that Microsoft has changed the way they charge for their software. So now it's really a subscription mode. And as a result, you have to pay each year in order to use it. Now I think it's about $70, and that actually gives you the ability to install it on multiple machines. But one of the truly wonderful things about using Google Apps is the ability for you to create and share documents. So this morning, I was looking at a document that I had started on my desktop, but I was using my iPad. So I logged into using a browser or one of the apps. I logged into my Google account and I was able to pick up that document and edit it some further. And I just then picked up my phone and thought, well, let's see if I can access my document there. And sure enough, going on to a browser on my phone, I was able to find the same document and continue editing it. So the versatility of it, the flexibility of Google Documents is really quite wonderful. In addition, you can easily share a document. So we're working on our Christmas newsletter, the famous Christmas newsletter that we've been doing for the last 19 years, my husband says. Apparently that's true. And so we have put together a document, a text document that we wanted to share with our children so that they could edit it, make sure that we've said the things that are true. And so as a result, we were able to share our document. So that was really a kind of a fun thing. So all of this is leading up to something that I want to point out, which is that these documents, these apps, I should call them, these apps that come from Google are not necessarily the strongest app. Is Sheets as strong as Excel? No, it's not. It is a second cousin to Excel. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but you know what? It's got all the bells and whistles that probably 90% of the people use in Sheets. Is Docs as strong as Word? Again, it isn't. It doesn't have all of the features. So today, in order to do a mail merge is not something that's native to the Docs app. It is something that's going to require us to download a little add-on that is going to add that functionality. We had talked, I was talking with a Darien library with Amanda about whether or not she thought this was a negative, something that we should perhaps have even canceled the webinar rather than downloading apps. And she felt that it was probably a good thing that you see what it's like to download an app into an app, an extension into an app that allows for functionality. So we are going to go along with that idea, and we are going to be downloading an extension that will add the functionality of mail merge. If you have any questions at any time in the webinar, if you put them in the Q&A, I will be happy to answer them. I think I might have the ability, if I don't understand your question, to actually make you live, and you could ask your question verbally if you have something. And I see that we still have a very small group, so any questions that you have, I'll be happy to take the time to answer them. So the first part that we're going to do is we're going to open Sheets. And you'll see that when we click on Sheets, we have an opportunity to open sheets that we have created earlier, or that we're going to create a new blank spreadsheet. So I'm going to click on blank spreadsheet, and that will give us an Excel-like experience. If you're familiar with Excel, this should feel comfortable to you. I think it's amusing that the Sheets icon, the app icon, is green. So is Excel green, the icon for it. I'm sure that's just a coincidence. So we have the usual columns and rows of information. This does not have nearly as many rows or columns as Excel has, but most people don't use the size of an Excel document. So it's not seen as a negative. When we're setting up a document as the main document, the data document, it's important that row 1 contain the names of the fields, the names that will be associated with the information in it. So for instance, in A1, which is where I am now, I'm going to type first name and then hit the tab key on my keyboard. When you hit the tab key, it moves you across. I'm going to be putting in last name. So these are the fields that I will be needing for my Christmas cards. Because many families now are combined or people don't take on the same last name. This used to be easier when I started teaching this 30 years ago, but now it's a little bit more, it's a little bit different. So what I might put in here is a second name, so that I can put in the name of the second individual that might be in the family. I don't have to use this. In other words, if there are some people that don't have this situation, well, then I'll just tab over it and not put in an entry. I like to sometimes add family or and family to some names. So I'll put that on. Again, that will be a field that I can add to it. I like to break the first name and the last name apart. I might have put them together as just first name, meaning the first person in the family, and then the second name. But I like to have last name as its own field, because that will enable me to sort by it. If it's its own column, I can sort by it. If it's not, it is very cumbersome. So after that information, I'll put in address and city, state, and zip. And you can see all the columns are the same width. And we're going to adjust that after we put in some information. A good question. Anna is asking, can an Excel spreadsheet be transferred to Sheets? Absolutely. Of course, you could simply do a copy and paste, right? Open up Excel, select all of your data, copy it, and paste it in here. But the other thing that you can do is under the file menu, you can upload, you can import and find your Excel document and bring it into Sheets. So good question. Yes, they do play well together from that point of view. That Excel, because of the structure is so similar, and actually you're going in the right direction for the technology. So I'll be putting in first name, and this actually might be first names. This might also include titles. I might put in here Mr. and Mrs. Fred, and a last name of Adams. And there is no second name here. They do have a family, so I'll put and family. Address is 123 Main Street, New Canaan. We used to live in New Canaan, so I believe that's 06940. How soon we forget. It's been 10 years. But I believe that's the zip code. So now I've been tabbing across. You see how easy that is to type and tab and type and tab. But now I'm going to hit the Enter key. And when I do so, do you see it brings me back to the first name, so I can now continue typing the next person. But uh-oh, do you see what happened? Here we have a little oops moment, right? Wait a minute, what happened to my leading 06840? Oh, thank you, Kathy. Kathy Hamill, do I know you? I think so. But look what happened to the zip code. It dropped the leading 0, because according to Excel and according to Google Sheets, you cannot have a number that begins with 0. Oh my gosh. So what will we do? Well, let's take care of that. We know that everything in each column is going to be text. So we're going to select that column and we're going to format. What we want to do is format it as not a number. That's what it would like it to be right now, and that's not working for us. So we're going to format it as plain text. And you can see that what happened to it is, instead of it being aligned right, as numbers always are, it now has aligned it left. So it's saying, all right, though these are numeric characters, they are being treated as text. So let me try again, 06840 and enter. Ah, nice. Do you see how it kept that leading 0? So we don't have to do anything more to the rest of the zip codes that we put in that because that whole column is now defined as being text. Okay, so I'm going to say Peter and Jane, last name is Harris. They don't have a family, so they're at 757 Cedar Ridge Road. I don't know that there's a Cedar Ridge Road, but I wanted something that's a little bit long. And you can see how the word road is kind of fallen over into F column. We're just ignoring that for the moment, and we will fix that very shortly. Again, it's New Canaan, so if I just type an N, because I have put in New Canaan earlier, it will put in the rest of it. If that's in fact great, which it is, I'm just going to hit the tab key. I'm going to type a C and it will put in Connecticut. And it does not, although we've said that this is text, it doesn't treat it as text entirely. So we've got a little bit of information in. We can tell the computer that check out the column widths now and see if you feel that they are the best. You can see that the zip code field could be much narrower, as could the state. We know the address field needs to be larger. So we're going to take a moment and select the entire worksheet and change that. The way of selecting the entire worksheet, we have a couple of options. One is on your keyboard. You could hold down the control key on your keyboard and type the letter A for all. And that would be one way of selecting your entire worksheet. Or if you put your mouse in the upper left corner of your screen, just above the number 1, and just to the left of the letter A, do you see that little blank box there? I'm going to click there, and that's another way of selecting my entire worksheet. I'm going to move my mouse to the vertical line that separates the columns, and any column is fine. It doesn't really matter which one. I'm going to put my mouse on that vertical line. You see, it's a little tricky. If you move in different directions, you get a little bit different option. But what I'm looking for is the double-headed arrow, and I'm going to double click. Little click action there. And you see that it has assessed the column width for all of the columns, and it has changed the zip and the state, made it narrower. It's changed all of the columns to make it the best fit. Of course, this is not going to continue if we put in something that's an even longer name. Anna is asking how I made the zip code text. I can absolutely show you that. Remember, we first selected the column because we're saying everything in this column. If we don't do that, if we just select the one cell, it's going to just change that one cell. So we're going to select the entire column. And then we're going to go to the format menu because this is a format. And from that, we chose number, format and number, because numbers can be formatted in many different ways. They can be, we can have dollar signs for them. They can be dates. In fact, a date is a number in any spreadsheet program. But what we chose was plain text. We went to format. If you're taking notes on this, we went to the format menu, number, and plain text. And that now has made our zip code a text field. All right, so let's put in some more information. Let's put in Susan. And Susan's last name is Brown. And the second person in her household is Sam. They don't have a family. So an address for them is going to be 222 Boston Post Road and Darien, and 06820, I think, from my failing memory, if I remember correctly. And that's a Darien zip code. So we continue doing this, just entering information. This is probably the most tedious part, but you really need to start with this, don't you? You can't do your mail merge until you have all of your data. If you're using a form and people are registering for something, it actually creates a spreadsheet with the answers. And so you don't even have to do any of that data entry. I was involved in a car show recently, and I set up a form for the cars to register, and they were able to put in their first name, their last name, their address, telephone number, email, and then information about their car. And with by doing that, I was able to take the spreadsheet that resulted from that form and take all the information. I made labels for envelopes. I made what we call the car card, which was a card that was displayed on every car, indicating the year of the car and the make and the model and so forth. Just amazing. If my original database has John Brown as one field, can you separate it into two fields? I don't know actually if Sheets does that, but I know that you can do that in Excel. So if you have Excel, I might do it there. Okay, and Anna has another question. So Kathy, do you have Excel? If you do, I could later quickly show how you could break that apart. Anna has another question. For Christmas list labels, does the number of the address have to be in a different column or the same like you have it? Yeah, the same is fine. As I have it here would be perfectly fine. This actually is sort of our Christmas card label document. Kathy said, no Excel, I've divorced Microsoft. Oh my. Okay, well, what I would be looking for is, let me just take a moment and see. Split text to columns. I think that's it. Let me see about this. I'm just going to copy this over here. And so that was data, split text to columns. There you go. Now it's not perfect. Unfortunately, life is not perfect sometimes, but it stopped when it thought that there was information that should go into another column. So there is a way of splitting it. I'm going to just delete that information. Good questions. And we have, as I say, we have plenty of time. So have to be in different columns. Okay, good. I think I've got all of your questions answered. I'm just going to close out on those. All right. So we would continue entering information. I think you don't need to watch me type, but I will put one more name on. Oops, it's not typing. Okay, Helen. And Fred. This is hard, I have to tell you, making up information. Now, do you see I said family? I can't type and talk at the same time. I said that as you typed in information, it would automatically enter. Well, if there's a blank, and in this case we had two blanks, it kind of forgets it. Excel doesn't forget it, but Sheets does for some reason. And so they're at 888. I've forgotten some of the streets in Darien. Harrison Avenue. We'll say that's in Darien, Connecticut, 06820. Okay, so when we've got all of our information, and I can imagine that you're gathering this information from little bits and pieces of paper. I took my mother's directory recently, her address book. You know that address book that always goes into the junk drawer in the kitchen. And hers was, my mother's 102. So her address book, as you can imagine, was pretty ancient. And I went through and entered all of the names and addresses, and, you know, people remarried. And so they're still on the old page with their maiden name. And it was just a mess. So as you're getting these little bits and pieces of paper, don't worry about whether or not it's in any kind of an order, because we can always order this in whatever fashion you'd like. To do that, to sort, the best way of sorting is first by going to the data menu and creating a filter. Now, we're not really going to filter, but when we ask it to create a filter, do you see that it has identified the rectangular area where there is data? And what that has done is it's actually given us these little pull down options at the top of each menu. So I can very easily say, I'd like to sort it by last name. Maybe I'd like to sort it by city. Maybe I'd like to sort it by state. Of course, we only have 2 states in here, but it allows me to very easily sort the information. The other thing, because this is called a filter, the other thing that we can do is, for whatever reason, if we only wanted to see a subset of the people on here, maybe you actually have your entire address book on here, but you're only going to send Christmas cards to a few of the people. Well, you could actually have another column that would say Christmas cards or CC cards. And you could then put a yes or a no, a Y or an N in that, and you would then be able to filter it. And this is the way a filter works. As I said, this is that's what this is really designed for, is filter. But you can see that it has listed all the unique values in the column. And so if I turn off the check mark in front of New Canaan and say, okay, then I don't see all of my information. I see a subset of it. So I like the idea of using filters. You can always remove the filters, and when you remove a filter, it then shows all of your information again. Okay, any questions so far about setting up your data document? One thing that we haven't done is we haven't really given this a name. So does that mean this has not been saved? Nope, it's actually been saving all the time. If I went to my iPad right now, I could open up this document and I would see it exactly as I do now, though I did not save it and I did not give it a name. It has been saved currently as cleverly untitled spreadsheet. You can see the name of the document here in the upper left corner of your screen. You can also, of course, see it here on the tab of your sheet, untitled spreadsheet. I'm going to click, in fact, it prompts me, doesn't it, rename. If I click in that box on untitled spreadsheet, I can call it anything I want. It gets saved in my drive, which is great. It means that I'm able to access this document from anywhere that I want. It now has been saved on the cloud, on the iDrive cloud. All right, I'm going to close this document simply with the X, of course. So I can look at that document. I can continue working on that document. If I go to my Google Apps and I go to either Sheets or Drive, I'm going to go to Drive so that you can see that. If I go to Drive, it's showing me information that I've used recently, or I can see other documents. Can I import from Apple? Contacts? I think that's contacts to Sheet. Yes, probably. That's a very definite probably, because in your contacts, you have an opportunity to export. And as a result, if you export as a CSV, comma, separated value, CSV, you'll be able to then import that into your Sheets document. Yes. And then you'll see what a mess your Apple contacts are, I think. I recently, for a class, did that, exporting, it was last week's class. I exported my Google contacts actually into a comma separated value and imported those into Excel. And oh my gosh, I was a little embarrassed. There's like 1,500 names and they're just a mess. So in any event, you can go back and continue working on this at any point. So until you get your data document in the format and in the function that you would like, it's probably not a good idea for you to continue on to the mail merge part of it. All right, I'm going to close this. I'm going to say that we're done. And actually, I created a document. Oops, names for class. Well, here it is. Okay. What is this sheet? Oh, okay. So I have a document that has a little bit more information in it, and this will allow me to do a better representation of what it's like to do a mail merge. You can see that the columns really are not the right size, the right width. So you remember what we're going to do. We're going to select all, and we do that either by clicking in the extreme upper left corner above the number 1 and to the left of the letter A, or maybe you remember the keyboard shortcut. I'd like to think that maybe you did, because it's a pretty easy one. Remember, it was Control and the letter A for all. So now I'm going to position my mouse between any one of the columns, and I'm going to do a little click, click there. And it took up a broader area, didn't it? But that's a good thing, because now I can see all of the addresses, but the zip and the state are a little bit narrower. You'll notice that I probably have a filter on here. Remember how you would know if I had a filter? These little pull down arrows at the top of each column. And that would allow me, if I said that I only wanted Connecticut, I'm only sending to Connecticut people, or perhaps I want everybody except Connecticut, however you'd like it. I'm going to clear all of the check marks, and I'm going to put a check mark now for Connecticut. And when I click on OK, it is showing me just a subset of my records. It also, you'll notice the little icon has changed at the top of the column. Instead of it being this down triangle, it now looks like a funnel. And the idea is to tell me that I am filtering all the people in Connecticut, and maybe I want all the people in Connecticut that have an family. So now I have 2 filters on my information. So filters can be very helpful. I'm going to go to the data menu, and I'm going to remove the filter. That puts all that back again, and I can create a filter again, and it puts the filters back on. So I never have to save this document. Remember, it's always saving in the background. So this looks good. I'm ready to go over to our docs and see about creating our label document. So from the 9 waffles here in the upper right side of my screen, I'm going to click on it. And this time I'm going to go down to docs. It always shows me some templates. These are templates across the top. So if I wanted to do a resume, oh goodness, I don't want to do a resume. I might start with that, or a project, or a brochure. You can see that there's all kinds of, lots of resumes, letters. When was the last time you actually typed up a letter and printed it. That's been a while, I think. Everything is being done by email. But in any event, I'm going to go with a blank document. And you'll see that this looks very much like Word, if you ever used Word, very much like it. In that we've got the menus across the top. We have all of our formatting. Undo, of course, is the first thing. It won't save a given cell until you hit enter or arrow key. That's correct. That's correct, because you haven't, Kathy is asking whether or not it will save the entry in a given cell if you haven't hit the enter key or an arrow key or some way finish the entry. Because if you have an active cell and you haven't done that, you haven't really entered it. You haven't finished the job. So absolutely, that is true. So we have an opportunity to type the text. Now, as I said, if you were to look in all of the menus, you're going to find that there is no functionality for mail merge. We're going to have to get an add-on to add that functionality. Now, I looked and looked and looked, and though there are some add-ons that say they're free for the mail merge, most of them are not free. Most of them are free to experiment with, free to do a certain number of labels or whatever it is that you're adding. So you can see there's all kinds of apps that are available for you to put on to add functionality. And that's probably a good thing, because a lot of these add-ons are functionality that would be difficult and expensive for Google to add, and very few people would be using them. I mean, a math typer, how many times do you write math equations? Well, there is an equation writer in Word. It's built in, but of course that's a paid program. So this is something that would add functionality. I looked and I found that there was kind of a neat app that I can add on to here. It's called Foxy Labels, and you see how it says that it's free. But when you look further, it turns out it's free to make 100 labels. After 100 labels, now you need to buy into it. I chose this because though it has $100, for $100, you could buy this program forever. They wouldn't ask you for any more money. But they also had kind of an intriguing idea, which is that you can pay monthly and cancel at any time. It was like $4 a month. So if you are in charge of an event, you pay your $4, you have it for a month, and then you cancel it. And it adds great functionality. I also was happy with a rating of 4.9 and that it's been downloaded 1 million times. Another option would have been the Avery labels, but that seemed to be a little bit more expensive. So I'm going to add Foxy labels. So the way that you do this is I've put in what I was looking for, and I could have put in something more generic, which is a label maker, and it would have come up with more options. But I'm going to go with this Foxy labels. I'll click on it and click on install. Okay, need permission, so I'll give it permission to install. I have a number of Gmail accounts, so they're all free, so why not? This is always scary. They want to access my Google account. They want to see information about users. Well, you pretty much have to, every app that I found is going to ask for all of this. So some of it is understandable that it will want to go into my other Google Docs and so forth. I'm just going to click on allow. This is one of those. Yeah. And it's been installed. And it's telling me that it added it into my docs. And it also added it into my spreadsheet as an add-on. And that's where I can find it. Okay, next. Okay. It's been installed. So uninstall is now the option. I don't want to do that. I'm just going to close this window. So now under extensions, here is my Foxy label maker for Avery and Company. And now I can create my labels. It's working. All right. So this is Foxy labels. This is the functionality that we just added, and we're going to add labels to this document. But of course, we need to tell it what kind of labels. And at this point, this is when you get out the labels that you bought at Staples, and you find out that at the top it says what number label it is. 5160 is highlighted. If it isn't highlighted, it probably should be. It is the standard 30 to a sheet, 3 columns of 10. It's the one that's most popular in offices back when we were using labels. Another popular one is a shipping label, 5163. I use this one a lot because it's 2 inches by 4 inches, and I have the ability to put my return address on it as well as the shipping address. I'll show you that. We're actually going to do 2 labels today. The first one will be the 5160, and the second one will be the shipping labels. So it's telling me 5160 has 30 to a sheet. And if I click on apply template, it is going to change my document so that it looks much more like the label sheet, right? That looks like it, doesn't it? There's your 3 columns, 1, 2, 3. We only set up the very first cell in each of the columns, not each. We only set up the very first cell, because then when we click on create labels, it actually takes them and puts that data all over. Okay, so now that we've told it what the size of the label is and it has adjusted our document, the next thing that we need to do is say where the data is coming from. And so we're going to select a spreadsheet. So these are the documents that we created. The first one is names for class. Remember, that was the one that I opened that had a lot of names in it. And the other one is the Darien names, which only has 4 in it. I'm going to open up this top one just because it has more names and you'll get a better feel for what this merge is all about. So I'll select that. And what it's doing is it's looking at that document and it's looking at the first row of text. Remember that I said when you create your spreadsheet document, the first row is really important. That's where we say, this is where the first name goes, this is where the last name goes, this is where the second name goes, and family, city, state, and zip, and so forth. So it's looked at that document names for class. It's looked at sheet 1. I don't know if you noticed, but that document only had 1 sheet. If it had multiple sheets, then we would be able to choose a different sheet within the book, but for the most part, we're going to have it as sheet 1. Now my cursor is in this box, a sample box. And so I'm going to click on select a field and you'll see, aha, here are all of the fields that we have in our document. So I'll choose the first one, which is first name, and it puts it in my document. Now I need to hit the space bar, right? If I don't hit the space bar and I put in the second field name, they're going to be all scrunched up together. So I definitely don't want that. Last name is the second field that I'll be inserting. And again, hit the space bar. Second name, space bar. Family. Now, all of that goes on the first line. It's obviously not going to take up as much room as it appears right now. Some of these field names are a little bit long, but in any event, all of that goes on the first line. And we want to say on the second line. So I need to hit the Enter key on my keyboard. On the second line, I'm going to put address. I remember teaching this class years ago, and there was a person in the class, we're just doing this. And I said, now what goes on the next line? I don't know. Okay, well, like the address. Oh, yeah. Okay. And then what would you do? I don't know. Well, on the next line, we would probably put city. And after you put city, we could just put a space, right? But I don't know, I'm kind of old-fashioned. I would always put in a comma and a space. I don't know how the post office feels about that. They haven't shared that with me. State. And I always put in 2 spaces. And zip. Great. Okay, so we've got all of that information. And I don't know why you can't see it. It's very hard to scroll down, but this little blue band says create labels. I'm going to click it. I hope it does it. Ah, brilliant. Okay. So it took this document, which is a mail merge document, and it took the information from our Sheets document, and it has now combined them. And excuse me, it's telling me my labels are ready. What should it do next? Well, I would like it to open a document. So you can see I have open the document here or open down here. Either way, I'm going to open that document. And this is our beautifully merged document. This document would be sent to the printer. Do you see that this is the name of the document? Labels for sheet 1, names for class, 5160, Foxy labels, and the date. That's kind of a long, ugly name. I might just call it 2022. Christmas labels. In that original untitled document is still open. If you look on my tabs at the top, this now is called 2022 Christmas labels. But if I come over to untitled document, I could save this, couldn't I? I might call this, maybe I'll just make it CC label template. And so next year, or next time I'm making labels, I could just open this document maybe I've updated or changed the information in my Sheets document, and all I would have to do is then merge it again, and it would create new labels. I could kind of bypass this one step because I already have this document. But I am going to do another merge. I would like to open a different document. We had this car show, and so we've got all of this information, and maybe I'd like to make labels that actually have the make, the model, the information about the car specifically, the make, the model, the group that it's in. So I'm going to make some labels using this information. So I am going to create a new doc. So we'll do this again. Extensions. I've already added it on. So here I am. I can create labels. A little concerned about doing this because they said you could only do 100. I think this will exceed that. And I'll select a template. This time I'm going to use the shipping labels, and you'll see that when I apply the template, those are 2 inches by 4 inches. That's 4 inches wide and 2 inches high. So I'm going to click on apply template, and you'll see that it changes this document. Okay, select the spreadsheet. That was called the concours. And I'm going to select a field. So this is make. I'll enter that. Model. Generally, model and year are kind of short, so I can put them on the same line. Color. Hitting the enter key to create a new line, and distinguishing characteristics. And of course, I can format this, right? I can even add text to it. And if I wanted to say, make model year, I don't just have to have the fields themselves. These can be formatted. I can make this bold if I'd like. Here's the format painter. I love the format painter, especially if I've made a number of changes. Okay. All right, I'm ready. I think that'll look fine. And so I'm going to create labels. Again, I can't see that, but I know it says create labels. Did I mention that you'll be getting a copy of this video? Takes a while for it to do that because my labels are ready. Okay, let me open them. There we are. I could have sorted these. That might have been a good idea. And then all the cars would have been alphabetical order by the type of car or by some other information. Oh, I forgot to make the year bold. So I could close this document, and I could then, can you center vertically and horizontally? Well, yeah, for that, I actually I could do it now. I can do a Control A, right? And align center. And I think, where is tables? But I should have done that kind of, that change. I should have done it in the, looking for these documents. I should have done that here, including making the year bold. So it's not uncommon that when you do a mail merge, you actually have to do the mail merge a couple of times because you realize, oh, I didn't add a space there, or oh, I'd like to center this. Relative to that, I don't see, I can center it, that alignment, but I don't actually see where I can align it top to bottom. I don't see any tables menu. In Word, I would have a tables menu that would allow me to do that. In here, you might have to actually do it with the Enter key, which is a little problematic. Okay, so that is using data to create labels that are different. Okay, I'm going to use this same model, and I'm going to start the merge again because I'd like to show you how I would put my return address on it. I'm going to change the merge document. I'm going to go back to the names document. And I'm going to put in as I mentioned, or maybe I didn't mention, we moved from Connecticut 10 years ago. I can't believe it's been 10 years, but it has. And we are now in sunny Florida, where the doors are open and life is fine. All right, so that's going, this is my, obviously my return address. I'm probably going to bring that font size down so it doesn't confuse the post office. And then I'm going to use this area for, for my fields. So here's first name, space, last name, space, second name, space, family, enter. Address, enter. City, comma, space, state, click space, space, and finally, zip. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to indent this. I'm going to do that by taking this little guy on the ruler and dragging him in. See where the grid lines are. There we go. Somehow I must have clicked on turn off grid lines. I like to see the grid lines. I find that they're particularly helpful. Oh, No, I thought this was alignment. No, this is borders. Can you add clip art? In theory, we could. I just want a little Christmas tree icon. Let's see if we can copy this image. Just resizing it. Telling it to wrap the text around it. Just by copying and pasting, it really didn't do a good job. It's black in the background because that's actually transparent. But let's see what happens when we click on create labels. Let's try it now. Let's see what happens when we click on create labels. My labels are ready. Okay, Kathy, let's see. Can we add clip art? This will be a test of whether or not it does it. Oh, bummer. Well, it was worth a try, but the answer is no. Sorry, Kathy. You can do that in Word, but I know you've sworn off Microsoft, so I understand. All right, but look at how nice these are. These are actually the type of labels that I use. The 2x4, and it allows me to have my return address. It's really important that if you're going to do this, that you make your return address small enough that they can read if they need to, but that they don't get confused. There was a year when so many of my Christmas cards came back because although this address was larger and I thought it was pretty obvious, the machines at the post office didn't see it as being obvious. So now we've done 3 mail merges. We created our labels for the concours for our cars, and we created our Christmas labels. And we also created our third type of labels, which included our return address. What do you think? Are you confident that you can now go and do it? I'm actually so far pretty impressed with this Foxy Labels. I thought it was fairly easy to do, and it kind of brought you through the steps of creating labels, which is not something that Microsoft is very good at. We have to ask them to help us do that. But in any event, it's an opportunity for you to create a document with a mail merge. For the most part, I would say that this Foxy Labels only will create label type documents. It's not going to create too many other types of documents. I don't see that I had the option of creating emails, personalized emails. So if that was an option for you, I would look for something other than Foxy Labels. I think its name says it all, that Foxy Labels is designed for you to create labels. That's about it, labels. I'm still trying to find where it might enable me to change the placement of the text in the cells, and it may just be that that's not an option in Docs. All right, questions? Is there any? I have a question for you, and you can put it in the question and answer. Are there any other types of documents that you were hoping that we would be able to create, that we were going to create in this webinar, other than the labels themselves? We've made 3 kinds of labels. Other than that, is there anything that you feel that you would like to know about creating labels? Remember, you will be getting this recording. How did you get to Foxy labels? Oh, that is a very good question. Very good question. Let me review that for you. Actually, let me close this. We added an extension on, and so what I'm actually going to do is manage add-ons. I'm going to uninstall Foxy label so I can show you exactly how we did that. Because that was probably one of the most important things, right? So let me review that. So we went to extensions and add-ons and get add-ons. Now I know that that's on the tip card that Amanda sent to you. I think it went out this morning. So you can do a search for mail merge. I just saw something called another mail merge for Gmail, mail merge for Gmail. So this would be the option that you'd be choosing if it was a Gmail that you're trying to merge to, as opposed to labels. But because we're looking for a label, now yet another mail merge, that's what I have used that for other purposes. But mail merge labels will then just show me tools that will allow me to do my mail merge. So I identified Foxy labels as being a pretty good one. I clicked on it and I clicked on install. Remember, there were a couple of additional boxes that you had to click on. I have a number of Google accounts, so I need to identify it that it's this one that I wanted installed on. And I allow all of that. Okay. So it's even telling me now where to find it. And done. So I'll close that. And now that has been installed. How do I know it's been installed? Because if I click on extensions, it shows me Foxy labels. When I had uninstalled it, that was gone. And now I can just create labels. So it's a pretty easy process to install apps. And as you're working with these programs, you may find that there's some functionality that's missing in the program. Maybe working with tables is a functionality that's missing. And so that can be added on to it. I'm just in looking at the, I know that there is a table functionality, but I just don't see alignment. Ah, look here. Look what I just found. So let's go to our labels. Let's go to these labels. Table properties, alignment, and align middle. Oops. I would actually have to go back to labels for form. I would have to find the original of this document. And make that change so that when it merged, I mean, I didn't have to go through each of these individually and say that I want to align it in the center. So I did find it. By clicking in the cell, I had noticed that way over here, it was actually underneath an icon, were table properties and alignment. So good, I'm glad that we found that before the end of our webinar. I can't say that I use Docs heavily. I'm much more of a Microsoft person just because, oh, you think insert rather than pasting? That's a possibility. Let's see if we could try that again. Delete, but to do that, I would have to first save this. Is this good? Okay, let's save image as. Let's try it. Insert image, upload from the computer. And where did I put that? I put it on my desktop. But let's insert it from there. So when I click on it, you see I can't really move it around, but it gives me some alignment. And the second one is to wrap the text around it. And that's going to allow me now to move it wherever I want, resize it, make it a beautiful thing. And now let's see what happens when I do my merge. Boxy label, create labels. And really at this point, the only thing I need to do is go down to the blue box that I can see and create my labels. I suspected it's not going to matter. Oh, it is you, Kathy, zooming from New York City. Woof. Open my document. No. It was a good try, but no, that didn't make any difference. Okay, I'm going to close that document. Got a lot of documents open and getting confusing. All right. Well, I think we have covered as much as we can on mail merge labels. Of course, if we wanted to mail merge for a email, it would be very similar to this, but we would be adding the fields into a Gmail template. Some of them that another mail merge for Gmail, as I recall, you actually have to type those little chevron icons that a mail merge uses, but they may have improved it over the years. I haven't used that in a couple of years now. So if there's no more questions, I'd like to thank you all for coming. I hope that you found that it was worthwhile, that you're now confident that you can do those labels for your family and continue on. So thank you for coming, and thank you, Darien Library, for hosting this. You will be getting a copy of this video and you can review it at your leisure. So I am going to stop sharing. I know sharing is caring, but I'm going to stop sharing and say goodbye to y'all. Bye-bye.